prepare themselves. A colony attracts nearby monsters and beasts. Thanks to that, they expected the journey to be difficult, and it is just that, as they are swarmed with beasts at the moment. Grace notes that there have been 6 groups since they started, and Jenny apologizes. She was sure this was the right way. Encrid says it's fine, and they keep moving. Apparently, Jenny knows of a side path where not many monsters pass, but each time they keep meeting beasts. Luagarn finds this odd. Even if there is a colony nearby, this isn't no Devil's Gate either. Encrid knows what that is. The source of the monsters and beasts. A land unreachable by humans, and suspected to be the catalyst for monsters. This just keeps getting weirder, and he has a bad feeling about it. After they arrive at the town, the leader welcomes them, and Encrid says that they are here about the mercenary request. Before Encrid can finish, a man who has seen some fights in his time appears, noting that they will talk with him about that. He shakes hands with Encrid, introducing himself as the leader of the town watch, Deutsch Fullman. If he is frank, they already took care of the colony. The men of the watch are composed of well-trained mercenaries. Monsters and beasts are no match for them, and they have the wall too. A masterpiece created by an engineer from town. A regular beast can get through. There is nothing for him here. They will convey that the request is completed, so he can leave. Encrid refuses. He will decide when they leave, shaking Fullman up a bit. Grace intervenes, noting that they are tired from the journey, so they should at least get some rest before they return. Fullman relents and tells Hugo to present them their lodgings, which he does with a smile. Luagarn is weirded out though. She just can't stand to look at him with her eyes. His energy, it seems similar to one of them. He seems friendly enough though, so it must be a coincidence, or probably is. After the team gets set up in a house, Encrid notes that they are rather hostile, and Kreis can see why, as they came here with the full right to command. That man must be feeling like he is losing control of the watch. Encrid knows that's not everything, and Jenny wonders if they really got rid of the colony, but Luagarn thinks otherwise. Based on the number of monsters they encountered on the way here, the colony still exists, and it's going to be hard without their cooperation. Encrid says it doesn't matter. They'll do what they must. Meanwhile, he will train with some rocks he just found, somehow, but the others are going to bed. Luagarn thinks that he's doing the same training again and again because he's not improving, but even so, how could he have that expression? She's reminded of someone else, someone who also liked to train, her one true love. Back when she had the mental bond that frogs and humans have, that feeling remains unchanged. If only her lover hadn't died to them. She asks Encrid if training is fun, and he agrees with the same face that her lover once did, which seems to stun her for a bit. The leader of the town follows Fullman, noting that they defeated the hordes many times, but there are still too many beasts. They have to accept that request. He refuses, as this is their town. Everyone here came to escape those corrupt nobles. They work day in and day out to build this from nothing. If they allow the city folk to just interfere, they will soon take control of the town. He needn't worry. They can take the beasts on their own. Even now, his trusted men are watching from the walls, especially that Hugo guy. He's trustworthy and good at what he does. That same Hugo asks the watchmen if there are any issues, and they say they are all set, meaning that they needn't act anymore. And tomorrow, they will begin what they had planned. As the sun rises, countless beasts peer from the forest and begin charging into the town. The warning bells are rung, announcing that a pack of gnolls is here, and Luagarn connects the dots. The them she was talking about, what she was feeling from Hugo, was cultists. Hugo smiles, as they will do everything for their god who is stuck in the Devil's Gate. Everything started with no warning. The village was peaceful. Everyone was about their business. And suddenly, the stench of blood spread as the gnolls entered. The village was thrown into immediate chaos. The watch gathered to protect the village, and Encrid rounded up everyone. But Luagarn had to go somewhere, as she promised to kill every cultist bastard who murdered her beloved. She flew out of the house, and the gnolls attacked the group immediately, Encrid giving them orders, with Kreis and Esther staying next to him. He ran 3 gnolls in with his blade. They have to carve a way through, as he has fought many monster hordes before, and is trying the same tricks, dodging and cutting them down. His other senses become dull as he focuses solely on the fight, taking out gnoll after gnoll, but the mutated ones are giving him trouble, as they are much larger than normal, and unlike the lichens, these beasts just keep coming. The village was filled with screams and fear, but after a while, there was only the crackling of fire. The village, which was built on hope and survival, was trampled by the monster horde. Encrid still fights, activating all of his techniques to make a dent at least. Esther tries to fight too, but with a horde this large, there is no spell powerful enough that she can make while in this form. Kreis gets killed, and seeing this, Esther decides to retreat, as this would be a fruitless death for her, although she vows to avenge Encrid. Hugo decides to leave amidst the chaos, but suddenly Luagarn smashes through, and Hugo is only defended by a dark shield that surrounds him. Luagarn screams out at him, but he unleashes a dark attack toward her, sealing her fate. Encrid is getting overwhelmed. He's barely holding together. He can barely lift his arms up anymore. But seeing a nearby child, who is holding on his breath to act dead so he can live, he gains a boost of vitality. The gnolls suddenly make way for a bigger gnoll, who wields 2 blades at once. This is the leader of the monsters. Encrid challenges him, and they begin fighting, Encrid managing to smash his sword down. But the gnoll jumps around and slashes from behind, managing to nick Encrid with his blade. He can still fight, but unfortunately, the blade was poisoned. The leader smiles as he sees Encrid fall down. It seems that after a long time, Encrid has reached another wall that he has to conquer. As Encrid lets out a bunch of blood, he thinks that he can't move because of the poison, but he has yet to return to the start of today. It seems the leader of the colony is enjoying watching him suffer, and that's why he hasn't finished him off. He needs to kill that bastard to kill the leader and destroy the colony. Unlike most gnolls and their short legs, he is extremely quick, and even has a poisoned blade. This means that in their battle, he cannot let this bastard hit him even once. As he wonders what he's supposed to do, he dies, and the ferryman wonders what a feeble can go against a legion of monsters. After waking up, Encrid picks up his blade and thinks that Crace probably died while he told him to stay behind, as he couldn't sense him. He sent Pin out past the walls, but she did not return, meaning she was dead. Luagarn is surprised to see him armed this early, and Encrid asks if she knows about cultists, piquing her interest. She explains that they are a bunch of lunatics. Among all the cults that are taking root in the continent, the worst is the Church of the Holy Devil Gate. They believe the Devil's Gate is their holy land, and praise the demon of sixes. Before she can ask why he wanted to know, the gnolls attack, and he moves out immediately. Before he can even get out, Luagarn jumps out again, and Encrid does too, fully prepared to protect the villagers this time. As he takes out one of the gnolls, he thinks about the ferryman's question, and he only has one answer: to use everything he has trained in. As everyone moves in to fight, they see Encrid assaulted by a bunch of spears, but using Heart of the Beast, he dodges. He uses the sense of the blade to spot a villager in a dangerous situation, and throws a knife to take the beast out. Another gnoll takes this opportunity to take a swing at Encrid from behind, but he dodges and concentrates on a single point, blocking the next incoming strikes. The gnolls, seeing this human try to fight them, turn away from the defenseless humans and charge him. Encrid kicks down one of the charging ones before killing him, and as he fights, everyone concludes that they can win with someone like him on their side. The Watch charges in too, vowing to protect their town. Encrid pushes even harder, cutting up the gnolls like a blender. He sees the gnoll boss, who points his poisoned blade at him, and with his order given, an entire legion of gnolls comes once again. Encrid can hear the ferryman calling this useless, but this makes him push even harder, as he will not give up no matter what. He charges in, using the Heart of Superman to block a harsh strike that pushes him back, but he manages to push through and take down a bunch of gnolls at once. Another charges in, but Encrid swings widely, taking him and more out. He continues charging in, but one of the gnolls manages to hit him with a spear, and everyone starts to lose, one by one. They are all taken out. Encrid is forced to kneel too, knowing that this bastard was waiting for him to get injured. Even with his injury, he charges in, but the boss's blade still grazes him. This bastard seems to really enjoy watching him suffer. As everyone dies around him, as Encrid slowly fades away, his eyes are still filled with a need to fight. The third attempt comes and goes, same with the 20th and the 40th. No matter how well he fights, the leader does not appear before he's critically injured, so he thinks of getting injured earlier. Even with that, the gnoll boss has a speed that rivals a proto-knight. He cannot avoid its blade. Is there no other way? Can he truly not dodge this wall with what he has? He remembers what Jackson said, that his dodging sense is only half done. This is not about watching and dodging, but only one thing, and that is coordination. As the bell rings and he gets out, Encrid realizes that what he has is not enough, so he must try something new. As a gnoll charges in, he dodges, but another takes his place. He remembers Jackson's word to not hesitate, but he does, and dies in the process. The next time he manages to dodge, but another takes him down with a bite. He will have to repeat it until it's ingrained in his body, and so, he begins to understand. Precise judgment, quick movement, the strength needed for all of this, and proper coordination that only occurs when all of these work together. He dodges 2 incoming strikes, but still falls. The 100 try goes, the 101 try too, but he refuses to stop. He keeps going, just a little longer, until he fully realizes his dodging sense. The others watch him in awe, especially Esther, who wonders what he is planning to achieve by taking on so many gnolls. Encrid thinks to use only the minimum amount of movement to not tire early and predict their attacks to stay one step ahead. He dodges and dodges until he can't anymore, and he falls again. He, however, wanted this, as his real opponent is the boss. There is a trick he's picked up after dying to the poison all the time. Instead of waiting around to die, he charges in, a much quicker death. He gets up again, looking at Luagarn, who has not changed at all, no matter the day. She chased after the cultists and never came back. He asks if she knows about the cultists, which she notes are the greatest group of cultists on the continent, committing atrocious acts for their god. They also sacrifice humans for ritual summoning. Encrid heard rumors within the mercenary world about a salamander that spits flames from its body, that it was cultists who summoned it. Luagarn notes it's no rumor. She witnessed a summoning of that thing with her own eyes. Encrid thinks that the monsters attack at daybreak, a horde of gnolls, with countless attack patterns among them. He has kept repeating 170 times, 180, up to 190. He has learned their patterns and continued to repeat and move as his senses ordained. His choices are to dodge, block, or counter, and instinct is what drives him. His stored experiences are what give him that push. As the sun sets, again and again and again, Encrid continues surviving up until the moon actually appears. He smiles, his sweat creating a ripple today. The key to this technique is not just noticing and moving out of the way, but to tune his senses to react automatically. Finally, after 200 days, the dodging sense has become his. He meets the ferryman again, who notes that he must know all too well that bearing it isn't everything. As Encrid wakes up, he smiles, knowing that's the case. That's why he has a plan. He pulls off the sheets from Kreis and tells them to all get up, telling Pin and Esther to move out with him. He also needs Kreis to do something important. Luagarn asks what's happening so early, and he notes there's not much time. The Gnoll Hoarder will be here by sunrise. They must finish preparations before then, and surpass this wall of his. He turns to Luagarna, and notes that he remembered some cultists escaped during a job he took as a merc, and there are people here who look just like them. She asks if he's sure, and Encrid is positive on this. With that, she immediately goes to check on who she suspected from the start. She never came back in the past 2 days, but since he sent her before the Gnolls attack, perhaps things will be different. Not that it matters to him, though. He tells Kreis to bring Fulman by any means necessary, even if he has to take the village chief hostage. As Kreis tries to refuse that order, Encrid ignores him and goes outside with Pin and Esther as they need to secure the wall. The monster horde that infiltrated the village is strange. As to enter, they must pass through the wall. That wall they were proud of couldn't be breached. But could those gnolls really climb over it with those short legs of theirs? There is only one answer. The gate was already opened, and the reason Pin never returned when he sent her over the wall is that there are enemies there too. The wall guards are all cultists. They look on as he approaches and suddenly announces that from this moment forth, command here is transferred to him. Every single one of the soldiers here will now follow his orders. They immediately deny as they only follow their captain, but Encrid is not playing. If they do not submit, they will die. They immediately point their weapons at him, and Encrid charges in. He knows that not all of the guards are cultists, because the bell still rang when the monsters appeared, like this one in front of him, as he has seen him ring the bell a couple of times. The archers immediately begin raining arrows, even though their comrade is right there. Encrid protects them, and Esther begins attacking the cultists, putting them on the ground. Encrid can see dawn airy over the wall. The gnolls are officially coming. He asks the old guard if the gate is locked properly, and to check again. Even if he is sure, the guard does just that, and finds out that there's a crack in the bar holding the gate closed. Under the threat of dying under the Gnoll horde, he valiantly picks up another piece and rushes over to repair the gate, as it must hold. The guard that Pin was holding summons a bunch of dark magic to stop him, and the one Esther was attacking does too. Encrid gives out the order to push them out, and their fate is sealed as soon as they are thrown over to the hungry gnolls. With a few seconds left, the old guard manages to close the gate, and unlike ever before, the gnolls scream out like they are demanding to be let inside. The captain asks what is going on. From behind, Encrid is glad to see that Kreis managed to drag them here. Encrid explains that the Gnoll horde is targeting their village. This is an emergency, and as such, he will take full authority. The commander would like to complain, but with the advent of the gnolls, Encrid screams out, noting that this is not important. They will all fire arrows now. The captain damns it all and hopes he'll explain later, giving everyone the order to rain arrows down, even if they block the gate and stop the gnolls from entering. As long as the colony holds in front of it, this cannot be cleared. He asks if there is a side gate, as he wants it open just a little. Seeing the attack on their walls, the old guard asks if he really wants it done now. Encrid gives Esther the order to help them, and she crashes into the gnolls, using her lithe body to create an opening, making the gnolls hesitate. Encrid thinks this should be enough, and they open the gate. A colony lives and dies on its leader, so he will have to break through the gnoll horde and eliminate their leader. With one charge swipe, he takes out a bunch of gnolls, and the captain, seeing the crazed bastard just jump in, gives out the order to support him with arrows. The captain keeps ordering his men to fire and fire, to not stop shooting no matter what, and they do so, but one of the men tells him that there are far too many enemies, and they are running out of arrows. The captain grits his teeth at this realization, but there is nothing they can do at the moment except this. Pin, who's coming down a ladder, tells Crace that Encrid is outside, while he thinks that they don't have any proper defensive weaponry, and the walls are falling apart too. His eyes begin to shake as he realizes that it's only a matter of time until these bastards get through and cause chaos. He slaps himself out of his fear. He's sure the squad leader has a plan, so he needs to do what he can to help him. He gets the idea of throwing stuff and asks one of the men if they have anything to throw, like rocks. The man explains that there's a quarry behind the town, and so, Crace pulls everyone to help, even the working men and women. Encrid is doing exactly what he wanted to, draw as much attention as possible, cutting through gnolls after gnoll, and Esther is helping in that too. With this, all the gnolls' attention will be focused on him, and with Esther at his side, he is able to do much more than before. With the help of the others, who have just begun to throw large rocks that scatter across the battlefield, taking some gnolls out before they even realize it, thousands of openings are created right in front of him, which are way too easy to exploit. Seeing a path, he tells Esther to take care of the rest, and charges through, knowing that she has his back. As he passes gnoll after gnoll, Esther continues to fight, making sure that they don't follow him. But eventually though, seeing that the gnolls have turned their attention to her, she climbs up the wall. Seeing her, Crace wonders where Encrid went, and he seems to be inside a spiky bush on his belly. He is hiding his presence by covering himself in gnoll blood, and also uses the terrain to advance, to minimize injuries and conserve energy. The original intent of this wall was for him to kill the leader while dodging his poisoned blade, all the while being critically injured. But without his dodging sense, that is not possible. However, he does not wish to see all that pain and suffering again, so he will do what he can. He rushes through the spiky bush and prepares a whistle dagger, eventually getting right below the gnoll leader. There is only one reason that he came here, to kill this bastard leader, while he is unwounded. Encrid throws the whistle knife right in front of the leader, distracting him for just a moment, allowing him to charge behind the leader, but he dodges his strike. The gnolls want to intervene and protect their master, but he gives them one stern look, making them realize that this is not their fight. Encrid expected this. While striking, the leader only appeared when he was wounded, as if to flaunt his might by killing him in front of all his subjects. The gnoll leader dodges his next strike too, and the next, until he finds an opening and strikes, but only scratches Encrid's armor. A human who has just sneaked up on him has damaged his reputation, so he has to fix it without the help of the others. The gnoll leader rushes with both of his blades again, but Encrid has learned of this technique long ago, and cuts his hands off right then. As his hands still flail in the air, Encrid rushes in with his blade once again, his strike thundering across the field as he puts an end to his miserable life. Christ sees him in the distance, and he is amazed to see what he has accomplished, even if he's so far away. As he splits the leader in two, Encrid thinks that no matter how fast the leader is, or what poison he uses against him, who is fresh and uninjured, he is but a mere gnoll, just like the beasts that he is leading. The other gnolls, seeing this, go crazy and charge at Encrid, demanding blood for their leader's demise, and Pin tells Encrid to run, as those beasts are out of control without someone to lead them, and he will be surrounded. He activates his beast heart, and jumps away from the peak that the leader was on, going right into the middle of the field, where there are still violent gnolls waiting to avenge their master. Fortunately, the guard captain opens the gates and comes out with his men, telling Encrid to get to them as fast as he can. Encrid gets to doing just that. He has achieved his objective, and he is not about to die here. Using his beast heart, Encrid slashes through 4 gnolls at once, and he dashes in to take care of the others. But arrows fly in their heads before he can deal with them, and the guards push in, the captain telling him to go inside now. The gnolls scream and thump at the thought of letting their target get away, but as the others watch from above, Encrid gets past them and dashes through the gate. The captain calls his men of the watch away, telling them to retreat, and as the gnolls charge in, they close the gates as everyone gets inside. The people continue to throw stones, and the gnolls get driven away, seeing that they have no chance to enter. Everyone is quiet as the gnolls run away. There is only silence after this hard-fought victory, and Christ screams out after seeing the empty plains, noting that they did it. Everyone cheers, and the captain looks at Encrid, who is now slumped on the ground. He thinks that it all happened in but a few moments. He knows their town was almost wiped out, and that he was the one who stopped it. He was sent temporarily, yet he did so much for a town that meant nothing to him. Encrid looks at him and notes that he wanted answers, right? The captain notes that he will call a doctor as he walks away, as they should take care of him first. Only then will they talk. As the sun begins to fall over the mountains, Encrid informs the captain about what happened, about how there were cultists among his men, and how they sabotaged the gate too. Crace notes it makes sense now. A colony of that size is unnatural at best. Large colonies number a few hundred max, but that one was almost 1,000 strong, and all of the gnolls were armed. It only makes sense that the cultists were involved, as gnolls do not have the capabilities of arming themselves like that. One of the villagers asks what they could have against them, but Christ tells him not to expect logic from cultists. They only strive to expand the Hell Gates. Maybe they wanted to establish a gnoll kingdom in place of their town. The villager is scared, and the captain notes that they got rid of them, so they should be safe from them now, right? Encrid explains that they can't know that yet. With the death of the gnoll leader, he escaped the repeating day. However, the cultists that Luagarn was chasing are still somewhere out there. The captain asks if there were even more cultists in addition to those at the gates, and now that he thinks about it, the villager hasn't seen that Hugo guy in a while. Encrid thinks he's the one behind all of this, and Pin thinks that if they don't capture him, the town will still be in danger. Encrid is relaxed, as a frog is after him, so they should trust her, and wait. Somewhere in an overgrown field, Hugo unleashes his black magic as she follows, demanding she give up the chase, but Luagarn dodges and grabs his arm. Unfortunately, using his authority, he slips away from her grasp. The authority of the cultists is the reason why these lunatics constantly get new followers, because they can easily achieve powers and change their lives. Hugo slips behind her and dashes away again. Seeing how he has many authorities, this guy has probably been a cultist for a long time. He's used his powers to escape up until now, but no more. She uses her whip to capture him, knowing that he's running out of juice, and goes in for a killing punch. But that's when she's interrupted by the sound of gnolls approaching in the distance. Seeing this opportunity, Hugo uses all his might to push her away, and retreats to the gnolls, who are now under his charge, as their eyes glow the same shade of purple as his. That night she returns, and Encrid asks what happened with Hugo. She tells them that she lost him, and Pin asks how. She's a frog, and Crace is repeating the same thing. She tells Encrid that their men are rather insubordinate, but Encrid notes that she's a frog in name only. Now she understands where they got it from. If it weren't for that gnoll pack at the end, she knows she would have gotten him, but he became their leader and escaped. Encrid notes that cultists are a persistent bunch, so he will come back to his town sooner rather than later. Pin asks if they really have to fight more cultists, but Encrid thinks it's not a bad thing. A dispersed colony is dangerous, so they cannot leave them be, and they can take out the cultists along with them. Pin asks how they are going to take out 1,000 gnolls, with the cultist at the helm too. Christ thinks this is better. They cannot know what a beast thinks, but they can anticipate the actions of a human. Encrid says they should get planning. By the time the sun rises, they will have finished their preparations. That night, as a carrier hawk flies away with a message, the villagers are rightfully informed of what is happening. And to put it lightly, their reactions are not mild, as there is just no way they can hold out against such an attack again. The village chief explains that they sent a reinforcement request to Count Bantra, but even at the fastest, that will take 7 days. The captain wonders if they have no choice but to endure, but Crace tells him that it might not take 7 days, not if the plan they prepared works. The captain asks if they really do have a plan, and Encrid notes that this is land all of them built with their own hands. A village like that, he will not let the gnolls trample on it. The next day, the bell rings loudly as his forces wait outside, just as the gnolls begin appearing, this time carrying ladders. Luagarn is kind of impressed by this, and Encrid notes this Hugo guy has more talent as a teacher than a coolist. Crace tells him this is no time to joke. The moment those reach the wall, it's over for them. Encrid pulls out his blade, and Luagarn enjoys it when the target is clear. It's time to commence the operation. Seeing them outside, Hugo calls them idiots and throws his gnolls at them. And as they charge in violently, Encrid thinks that the premise of the plan is the same. A colony collapses only when its leader is killed. The captain said that even with the cultists dead, if they just recklessly kill the leader first, the gnolls will scatter around the area and continue threatening the village. Christ knew this already. Hunting them down one by one would be too huge a task, and nobody was going to do it. Firstly, they will drastically reduce the number of gnolls. Encrid cuts through a few like Swiss cheese, gnolls falling on the ground one after another, before jumping above one that was holding a ladder and crushing it along with him. Hugo is surprised by his skill, and Luagarn thinks that when she was hunting this bastard yesterday, she heard Encrid went alone and killed the gnoll leader. Honestly, she could not believe it at first. He'd fallen into stagnation not so long ago. There were no signs of growth, but even without all that, she is seeing him today, much stronger than before. With one large swipe of his blades, he eliminates tens of gnolls at once, proving his prowess is enough to change the battlefield. With that level of strength, he is almost at the stage of a junior knight. The people continue to throw arrows and rocks at the gnolls, dampening their advance, and while getting into the fight, Luagarna's heart begins to race. As she takes out one of the latter gnolls, she thinks that seeing Encrid, the unknown that he is, makes her feel young again. As Encrid continues cutting his way through, Hugo wonders who this madman is, how he is cutting through 100 gnolls by himself. At this rate, he will be pushed back, so he decides to fall back, but that's when he sees something strange. Luagarn is carrying Encrid away, who seems extremely exhausted. This gives Hugo a bright idea. That night, the captain noted that even if everyone manages the gnoll packs with the squad leader at the front, how are they supposed to kill that damn cultist? Hugo will not show himself easily. He is cautious and knows how to use his head. Crace knows that, but guys like that, once they are convinced, are the ones who cannot turn back. Hugo charges in again, knowing that Encrid is strong. As long as he is here, he cannot take the village, but he can only fight like a junior knight for a moment, and this has taken a toll on that weak body of his, so he will wear him down. 1, 2, 3, it's the 4th day, where they attack and withdraw again and again. He must be exhausted from holding back the gnoll packs, as one gnoll overwhelms him, and Luagarn is forced to help him out. It's clear that even if he tries to fight, he's useless on the battlefield. Hugo charges behind him, as he knows that a guy who cannot use his strength is an easy target. With the power of his authority, he will finish this. He summons his might, preparing a dark and ominous blast. But that's when Encrid turns around and cuts his hand clear off, taking him by complete surprise. Encrid notes that acting really is hard. He is not built for it. Crace says that first, they showed overwhelming force and instilled the idea that the gnolls alone cannot stop Encrid, then deliberately showed their belly, their weak side. A cautious guy like that, to be sure of victory, will use the gnoll packs to wear down Encrid, and thanks to that, most of the gnolls are dealt with. Finally, the moment the cultist showed himself, he fell into their trap. Hug calls him a vermin. How dare he trick him? Encrid notes that the one fooled is at fault, so should he be more ashamed of himself? The guards immediately aim at Hugo, at the behest of their commander, and Luagarn notes that he shouldn't even try to escape. Hugo damns it all. As these lunatics are far more powerful than he anticipated, he was completely off guard. Well, this is it. His reason to create a new Holy Land. He points at them with his remaining hand and notes that this is not over. He will sacrifice his life to fulfill his purpose for the Devil's Gate. As he says this, a dark aura permeates around him, and Luagarn tells Encrid to be careful, as what he is seeing now is a summon. Hugo calls out the beast behind him, the dog of Huorin, telling him to rip them apart. The beast immediately lunges at them, its eyes and maw glowing as it goes for Luagarn, who dodges and whips its head off, but it seemingly regenerates without issue. Now she understands that it's visible, yet she has a body that is not really physical. This cultist has just summoned an evil spirit. Her whip begins to glow a humming blue as she explains that physical strikes don't do anything against evil spirits. As Encrid wonders if that whip is a magic tool, the beast charges in once again, just as Luagarn says that she has chased cultists for a really long time, so she is prepared for situations like this. She catches the beast's arm in her whip and rips it off, but this time, due to the magic residue, it does not regenerate. Hugo doesn't really care about the dog of Huorin, as it's only meant to be a distraction. The real threat lies within his next summon. He uses that same dark energy on his arm, which begins to grow as the dark mana shapes it. This summon strikes and disappears, and always splits the heart open. The arm of the warrior, a towering amalgamation created only from his arm. However, this summon has taken a toll on him, as he coughs up blood, his body not being able to handle two summons at the same time. Even so, this was clearly what he should have done. As the arm lunges toward Encrid, who is unbeknownst to it, he only notices just after the blade begins falling on him, and Luagarn tells him to dodge. Hugo thinks that it's far too late. He smiles, as the spirit will pass through all things to hit its target. As long as he takes out this bastard, it's his win. Seeing as he cannot hope to dodge, Encrid lunges forward with his blade, preparing to clash it against the summon, but Esther doesn't seem at all scared, and sure enough, his blade glows the same humming blue as Luagarn's whip, as it slashes the summon apart. The two are left completely stunned, and Encrid is just as surprised to see his weapon glowing. Esther thinks that he always does stupid stuff, so she thought he would be in danger while fighting that cultist. For this reason, she took the liberty of imbuing some mana on his blade. As a gift, Hugo is really mad now, and demands to know what that sword is, and Encrid sighs with a dramatic pause, noting that he doesn't know either. Hugo can't believe how stupid he is, but that's when his heart aches, forcing him to his knees. He clutches his chest tightly, thinking that the effect of destroying the spell is taking a heavy toll on his heart. After all, it seems that it was his heart that was split open. He falls to the ground, and the hound disappears too, Luagarn noting as such. Encrid is just glad that they no longer need to fight, as the cultist seems to have stopped breathing. As the last remnants of breath leave Hugo's body, his control over the gnolls falls too, and they decide to book it out of there. But the captain of the watch screams out for his men, telling them that they must end it here. They all get out, as they must take the gnolls out, so that they never threaten them again. As his men do that, the captain goes to Encrid and bows his head slightly, thanking him for protecting this town, and if he could, for forgiving his rudeness when they first met. Encrid tells him that he carried out the request as it was written, and he did the same thing. There is no need for thanks. He turns to Luagarna, noting that they should help with the gnolls too. As the captain watches him go, the village head comes outside too, noting that they really survived. The captain thinks that he shouldn't be here, but the village head thinks it's fine. The gnolls are no longer a threat. He looks back at the wall, noting that it took quite a beating. The captain smiles, noting that this wall was just a first rendition. They must build a proper wall to grow as a proper city. As the others finish off the fight, the village head suggests that since they're going to build a new wall, how about they should give it a name? The captain likes that name. He can't think of any better one. He is also sure that the townsfolk will agree that the wall shall be named after the hero who protected this town. It will be called Encrid's Wall. The warriors cheer as he finishes off the last gnoll and raises his blade, signaling that this is truly over. That night, naturally, a celebration is in order. People clash their drinks against each other, and everyone is partaking, mostly the villagers and watch members. Pin finds it funny. They apparently were throwing this feast for the heroes that saved their town, but they are enjoying the feast just as much. Encrid says that a wave of them came to say hello, and that's enough for him. Krace asks what this mountain of food on the table is for, and Encrid explains that each person who came brought something, saying that theirs was the best. Apparently this apple drink is very good. They only have 2 bottles. Curious, Krace takes a sip, and his eyes immediately light up with an opportunity to make money. If they sell this to the border guard, they will make a fortune. As he pours some wine into Esther's mouth, he notes that he is thankful for what they did, but he is afraid they are making the town run out of provisions. Luagarn notes that he shouldn't care. They are doing this to thank him, so he should at least enjoy it a little bit. As they chat, the village head notes that he's decided he will be marrying off his daughter to Encrid, and his grandpa agrees that he will make a fine son-in-law. The mother of said daughter screams at both of them, as their daughter is just 5. Another child notes that he trains under the hero, with a watchguard telling him to relax a little. The captain notes that training under Encrid does sound good, and Krace goes to the master brewer, wanting to chat up a little business idea he cooked up. As he hears the laughter and voices of the people who were once under the threat of death, Encrid smiles, noting that this is nice. For the past 4 days, he's felt what it's like to face the cultist while putting up an act. He's broken past his previous limit, and he has also realized that his powers are still not absolute, not without his will. He's used the heart of the Superman to make up for it, but that's not enough. Luagarn asks if he's curious about how one awakens their will, but Encrid thought she said he would find out when the time comes. Luagarn did, however. She doesn't think he is that far off from it. Proto-Knights are capable of using will in just 1 or 2 movements at most. Encrid understands, something like intimidation, as used by Ija, or using will on one's legs to dash forwards. They all seemed like specific uses of will to him. Luagarn explains that Proto-Knights are those who can selectively use will on occasion. Knights are able to use it however they please, which gives them their amazing powers. Some manage to awaken their will, but aren't able to become full knights. Rather, most never achieve this state. Does he still think he can become a knight? Encrid says nothing for a little while, and notes that since he knows himself, it has been his only dream. So no matter what, he will become a knight. Luagarn thinks that it seems he's just speaking casually, but she can sense the passion within him, which captivates the people around him. She explains that once they leave this town, she will be going her own way, as there is a covenant that frogs have to fulfill above their desires, so she cannot stay for too long. Encrid understands. This is goodbye then, and honestly, she did stay longer than expected. Luagarn tells him that he needn't be so polite with her anymore, as she doesn't like being treated that way by someone she likes. If he does achieve his dream of becoming a knight, she will fall for him. To a frog, the mental love that forms is mutually exclusive of reproduction. It means to convey a deep fondness. It does not matter if the target of their love has another partner of their own. Rather, they make themselves known and excuse their relationship. It is rare and rather special for a human to be loved by a frog, but Encrid doesn't even flinch, telling her to go ahead. Luagarn wonders if he even realized what she just said, but even so, she's beginning to grow fond of that denseness too. The next day, the men of Viscount Ventra arrive near the village. This was the one that messaged them about the large colony of gnolls attacking them. But now that they are looking at it, this doesn't seem to be the case, as they are just making holes. The captain wonders if they weren't being attacked, and one of his men notes that it seems like they are using monster carcasses to farm. The village head goes to them, recognizing them as Viscount Ventra's men, and apologizes, as they have come for nothing. They have already taken care of the colony. The captain asks how they managed, and the village head explains that it was a colony of previously unseen scale, brought in by a cultist. They thought they would surely die, but a hero took down 500 gnolls just on his own, killed the cultist, and saved that town. The soldier asks if this is why they are singing Encrid all day. Is he a free knight of legends? Or perhaps a mercenary king? The village head denies both claims, stating that he is just a platoon leader of the border guard. The captain lets out a deep sigh and notes that he wishes to meet with this platoon commander. The village head explains that he already left. He said taking care of the colony was his mission. So with that done, he left. With that, the captain reels his men in and leave. But one of them wonders if what that villager said is true. To take 500 gnolls down is certainly a feat. The captain believes it was an exaggeration. The townsfolk are the only ones who can prove his deeds, but people's memories are not that great, and unreliable when in a state of panic. They can't tell for sure, since they've already buried the bodies. But he's sure they are just making a fuss over 50 gnolls, at most. He is sure that he did save the town from ruin, but he also seems to be a bastard who is desperately trying to inflate his reputation. If they come across him, they will need to teach him some manners. As they walk, Krace holds out the map, noting that finally, it's time to be paid for their efforts. Pin really wonders what this treasure is, since they took such a detour. Encrid asks Luagarn if she will be leaving, making Krace's ears perk up, as he doesn't have to share the treasure with her anymore. Unfortunately, that dream is shattered, as she states that since she helped translate that map, she would like to see it dug up too. As he sulks, Pin asks what's wrong with him, and Luagarn notes that he previously said the treasure is a day's worth of walking from the town, right? Even if the traps are old and non-functioning, it would be troublesome if they are still working. Krace tells her that this is the problem with newbie treasure hunters like them. Encrid notes that he's just as new as them, but he notes that they should just trust and follow him, as he will show them some proper treasure hunting techniques. As they walk, Krace explains that 100 years since Dolph's treasure dungeon was created, the reassured hunters have all thought this since then. They want the treasure to be easy, and they want to be rich without trying at all. Encrid notes that it's a little materialistic, but Krace ignores him. He pushes a rock, as there's something under it according to the map, and sure enough, a hidden staircase is revealed. As he looks at the map to see what he needs to do next, Pin asks why he is not going through the entrance instead. Krace explains that this is a technique developed by the thinking treasure hunter, which allows one to go directly into the treasure room, past the entrance. It's called backdooring, a poor choice of name, honestly. He begins digging up, claiming that it's super efficient, allowing the complete bypass of traps. Encrid tells him that this is just a cheap trick, but Krace notes that it makes it faster, which it really doesn't. Pin also believes that they are just making this more difficult than it has to be, as Encrid takes charge of digging with Esther, but he notes that cheap tricks work sometimes. As the sun sets, Luagarn notes that it would be better to stay the night underground, but eventually they make a hole through the tunnel, allowing Krace to see bits and pieces of treasure. Pin tells him to let her check it out first, since she is the ranger. Pin slowly descends with a rope tied to herself and begins walking toward the treasure room, seemingly finding no traps. She tells them they can come inside, and they rush in, Krace asking for traps, but there don't seem to be any. Rangers are able to identify most traps. They need to be enchanted for her not to see them. Luagarn thinks that would be excessive even for one ancient rich man, and Krace gets to picking the lock. As he does, Encrid notes that he already has a ton of money. He's saving up like a penny-pinching miser. Krace tells him he doesn't know what he's talking about. He needs even more. His salon won't just be the best in the capital. It will have multiple branches across the entire continent. Encrid asks if he really is that desperate, and Krace confirms as such. Salons are the best place to earn krona, and kronas are the best thing to save one's life. Since from before, Esther has felt something strange about this place, She's sensing a faint smell that is coming from that chest. It is enchanted, so she growls at Crais, but this only causes him to actually pry the chest open fully, activating the spell. A bubble forms around the chest, trapping everyone inside, and Esther tries her best to get out of there, but she is caught too, and thrown backward, Encrid catching her as she falls. He notes that Pin said there weren't any traps, but she notes that this is magic. How is she supposed to detect that stuff? Luagarn notes that this is problematic. They are completely trapped. Esther thinks she messed up. The trap was too old, so the smell was very faint. Meanwhile, Encrid asks if she's all right. She goes to the end of the trap and thinks that it's not one that difficult to break, but to gather enough strength to disable it, she needs 2 days. Crais also finds that the chest contains no gold. It's completely and utterly empty. Pin sees that it's not exactly empty, as there is a note inside. She picks it up and begins to read it. Only those who find the treasure can leave, and to those who got here through backpaving, too bad, as this is the only trap in this dungeon. Pin notes that his little trick was for nothing, and Crais becomes increasingly annoyed, as this chest is empty. What treasure are they supposed to find here? Encrid points to the sword, noting that there is a treasure. The edge was lost to time, but the steel is good. That right there is a good sword. Crais goes to it, and notes that it seems to be a piece of junk, but whatever. Since it's the only thing here, might as well. As soon as he grips it though, he is transported somewhere else, and as he looks around, a figure pops up, aiming to take his life. Crais screams and falls back on the chest, closing it again. Pin asks what's wrong, and Crais acts all weird, asking where that lunatic with the sword went. Pin wonders if he's gone crazy from the lack of gold, and grabs that sword too, claiming that this is all he did. Unfortunately, the same thing happens to her, and seeing them so scared, Luagarn decides to try too. She goes to the sword and grips it, but as she tries to pull it out, her hand slips. Encrid thinks that frog skin is slippery. That's why their loop weapons have finger holes. However, this sword doesn't even have a pommel, making it impossible for her to grab. But if she constantly tries, she can see what they are talking about. This seems to be a demon sword with an evil spirit inside of it. Based on Dolph's note, they must defeat the spirit and retrieve the blade to disable the trap. Crais asks if they can't just pull it out without defeating the spirit, but Luagarn notes that the spirit will split his head open before that happens. Encrid approaches the blade and thinks about the evil spirit. One cannot defeat spirits physically. They can only do so with divinity or spells. He grabs the blade too, ending up in the same place as the others. He thinks that in the fight with the cultist, the strange light from his sword that helped him banish the summon was magic, but the sword was normal. He checked it. He cannot trust this unreliable power, so he should think of a different way to actually defeat it. The evil spirit descends his blade down on Encrid, so he pulls out his sword immediately and blocks it. He is confused though, as this shouldn't be working. Is this really a spirit? The spirit deflects Encrid's blade, and he skids a bit on the ground, thinking that this is an evil spirit that he can hit, but this thing is different from a normal evil spirit. If he can subdue it, before he can finish that train of thought, the spirit charges in again, and he tries to use the heart of the superhuman, but it doesn't seem to be working. The spirit lunges his blade at Encrid, but he deflects it, causing an opening, and charges in with his thunderous blade. However, the spirit uses his momentum to go under his strike, predicting his movements, and allowing him to go behind, where he can cut off Encrid's head with ease. With that, he is taken out of the spirit's realm. Crais is wondering if he is all right, and Pin sees that he is sweating profusely. Encrid puts a hand on his neck. It hurts from the beheading. He definitely died to that spirit just now, but why didn't he return to today? He asks how much time passed, and Crais thinks it was about 5 seconds maybe. Encrid thinks that he fought for over 20 seconds there, so the flow of time is different too. One is in a completely different space when they hold the sword. He explains that he just died in front of the spirit, scaring Crais and Pin, who wonder if he is the spirit now, but Encrid just kind of stares at them. Luagarn approaches and notes that he seems fine, which probably means that what happens there does not affect his body. Did he see anything weird? Encrid explains that he crossed swords with the spirit, but it seemed to read all his movements. It was a skilled user of the righteous sword. At least it uses swordplay. Then it can only be one thing. This isn't any ordinary demon sword. This sword was a tutor in the past. A genius mage used a spell to lock a person into a sword as a spirit to train the future generations. However, the mage didn't understand humans, and the person now locked in the sword had his mind and soul split, only capable of thinking about passing on his skills. It is basically a lesson that never ends, no matter how many times the holder of this sword dies. Only when one fully learns what the two tutors have to teach, and surpasses the tutors themselves, will they be free. Basically, The treasure that Dolph spoke of is a sword technique. Luagarn tells him to give this one up. A human mind cannot handle the pain of repeated death. He will become an unredeemable lunatic. Encrid is a bit hurt at those words, considering he's been doing that for a while now. Christ thinks that it's all his fault, and he sinks to his knees, and Pin wonders if this barrier will weaken in time. Luagarn notes that she would have done it if the sword had a proper grip, and Christ tries to take responsibility, but Encrid just shuts them all up by going back to the sword, and noting that he will just do it. Before he can grab the sword, Luagarn stops him. She knows he has determination, but does he think this is a joke? She does not wish to lose her future lover so easily. Encrid just looks at her, and notes that he can do it. Seeing this, Luagarn lets go, and Encrid arrives back in the spirit's realm, who immediately attacks him, but he dodges the strike. He admits he has rather spirited greeting. Okay? Did he wait for him too? Encrid unsheathes his sword and thinks that his skills and sixth sense concentrated on a single point won't work anymore. He can only count on his sword skill here. He clashes the blade with the spirit and begins pushing him back. Even if he dies, he wakes up in the real world, and he doesn't waste any time by returning to today. This is a lesson that he can attempt again and again. The spirit lunges forward, cutting his ear, but Encrid just smiles, as this is extremely efficient. There is nothing easier for him than dying repeatedly. This tutor is the best possible gift he could ever receive. The others watch as he attempts to subdue the spirit, Luagarn calling him a fool. Even clerics who serve the god of patience and suffering fail 9 times out of 10. Pin wonders if they really have to do this to escape the trap. Maybe he'll take it all on himself to spare their minds. Suddenly, Encrid lets go, and thinks, the sword play that took his arm at that end was amazing. The tutor moved like this. No, it wasn't that. It was this. Well, he's just going to see it again. He thinks he's getting the hang of it after all. This puts everyone's minds at ease. Christ thinking that they aren't called the lunatics for nothing, and Pin noting that he didn't even think one could get any crazier. But alas, he likes to subvert expectations. Even so, Luagarn doesn't understand. Does it not hurt? She can't even imagine how many times he'd have to die to beat this. Encrid says that it's not real death, and does pain really matter? She is impressed. It really doesn't seem to be bothering him. Rather, it almost seems like he is enjoying himself. He explains that no matter how much it hurts, he will learn what he can. That's what slow learners must do after all. Luagarn sighs, as he is a complete and utter lunatic, but she will help him. What he wants is footwork. What he just tried to do requires his right foot to be more forward. Encrid notes that she is good at teaching, and she explains that studying the sword is part of her duties as a scholar, and passing on this knowledge is also her burden. Teaching is actually a specialty of hers. She can't teach him anything new because of her covenant, but she can always help him bolster what he already knows, meaning if he is going to keep trying, even if she stops him, then she will help him overcome the tutor. The others decide to rest as he continues training, and Esther sees that she has been gathering mana much quicker than possible. She should be able to disable the trap with this. She could, however. Encrid seems to be rather happy in this place. Would she be getting in his way if she broke the trap now, or not? She doesn't know what she should do, so she just sits down, deciding to watch for now. Luagarn notices that he largely uses the heavy sword taught by that blonde guy, but the 5 sword styles, all of which Encrid knows, originate from a single style, so it's better to learn all of them. Luagarn confirms as such. It's important to put his weight behind his actions with the heavy sword, but with the righteous sword, he needs to be good at reading the opponent, figuring out what they are attempting, and trapping them in their own movements. The key to the righteous sword prediction is that he will predict and respond. He needs to be experienced enough to read his opponent. If he can perfectly replicate the movements of the tutor, then he can overcome him. Encrid grabs the blade again, and the tutor immediately rushes in, but he parries this strike only for the tutor to prepare an upward diagonal slash. If he creates distance here, he will have him trapped. Instead, he digs his shoulder in and blocks. However, the tutor has been waiting for this, as he redirects his previous slash upwards, and then crashes it down on Encrid, killing him. Luagarn thinks that was a good attempt, but he was being too defensive with a block there. Encrid tries again. This time, he charges in, closing in on him, which was good, but instead of blocking his sword, he will just go for the ankles. Seeing this, the tutor jumps, and Encrid thinks that he is off balance now. He should have the upper hand. However, the tutor uses all of his body weight to crash back into the ground and strike him at the head. He explains everything to Luagarn and grabs the sword again. The tutor is quick to adapt to changes. It's a perfect righteous sword. This time he comes from behind, and Encrid dodges, pinning himself against a wall. This is an excellent example that shows everything right in front of him. And he also has an excellent teacher who explains everything that happened. This is incredibly fun. How could learning ever be so effortless again? It was a good idea to listen to Christ and come for the treasure. Noon falls over the golden trees above, and the others just kind of watch with bored expressions as Encrid continues the same cycle, going to the tutor, and then coming back to Luagarn. He's been going at it for an entire day. Does he not sleep? Christ thinks that he really is extremely insane, and Pin guesses that he loses all interest when there is no treasure involved. Christ wonders what he's supposed to do with something he can't sell. He doesn't get why he's so obsessed with becoming stronger. Pin does actually. Those who can go forward will not be bound by limits set by others. She realizes now, while watching him, that Luagarn thinks so too. He has a strong will that doesn't falter, no matter how painful. He has died at least 100 times while fighting the tutor. But is that why he's improved so much? All of the movements he's seen while fighting the tutor, he has been able to perfectly replicate them in time. She determined Encrid's limits with her own eyes. This speed at which he is learning isn't possible for him. So what is going on? Why is he evolving so much? Encrid thinks that when he used the dodging sense against the gnolls, he had to figure out what he couldn't understand by learning through death. Once his body got used to the skill, he began to understand, and that allowed him to utilize the skill even better. Gifted people who can quickly and easily learn skills. He is now beginning to show talent just like them. Luagarn is honest. His fortitude surpasses that of humans. It's honestly pretty frightening. Christ thinks that an evil spirit possessed him, and Pin supposes they will visit a temple when they return. Luagarn, though, notes that this is enough training. Now he will go and beat that tutor. He grabs the sword again, but this time the tutor doesn't move. He wonders why it's standing there. He should attack like he always does, right? Suddenly, though, the tutor speaks. Noting that he has never seen anything like him, Encrid is surprised he can talk, and the tutor confirms as such. Of course, he was a human before he became a tutor. He acknowledges his passion to become stronger, and that passion has reawakened his consciousness. Suddenly, though, Encrid just charges in, forcing the tutor to block his strike. He has had enough of talking. He just wants to fight more. Encrid thinks that he's gotten to know the tutor's ways after fighting him hundreds of times. He sees that he is going for a stab in the chest, but at that angle, he is going for his head, right? Sure enough, he does. Encrid simply deflects his blade and notes that he knows all his tricks. Now he will be playing by his rules. As he charges in, the tutor says that he is impressive, and smashes the hilt of his sword into Encrid's blade, forcing Encrid to swing it back. His sword has become much more elaborate since they began. The way he reads the fight, and the way he handles the sword like this, they cannot get much better. Encrid unleashes a wide slash, making the tutor crouch down and note that he still has a lot of gaps. Encrid was expecting him to do this. Those gaps, those things he considers weaknesses, are his trap. He sidesteps the tutor's strike and unleashes one of his own, actually managing to damage the tutor. This causes him to stumble back, and before he can get up, Encrid smashes his blade into the ground with his foot and holds the sword at his head. He has served him well. With that, he smashes his blade into the tutor's opening, taking him out, ending the fight, and overcoming him completely. Encrid wonders how much stronger he is now. Well, to know for certain, he will need to return soon and fight all of them just like they've done before. Before he can leave, though, the tutor comes out of the armor and thanks him. Before he lost his mind, after becoming the tutor, it was his dream to piece together the lost sword technique of his family. He studied until he died. Encrid asks how long this will take, as he is taking too long, and turns around, making the tutor note that it will take around a minute. Encrid tells him to keep it short, so the tutor sighs and sits down. He recovered his mind during the fight against him, and he completed the sword technique. His long-awaited dream has come true, and that sword technique has been transferred to him in its entirety. It is the end. It was pretty scary seeing him come back again and again, smiling like that, so he hopes he never has to see him again, at least for like 2 lifetimes. Encrid is a bit annoyed, as he was the one killing him all this time, and with this, the barrier begins to dissipate. Luagarn asks if he's done it, and Encrid confirms as such. The human in this tutor is gone. This is now just a regular sword. Christ is glad that they can live, and Pin notes that it's the middle of the night, so why don't they just camp here? As they continue talking, Esther looks at Encrid. How did he do it? As they all sleep, Esther approaches Encrid and licks him on the face, sending him into her realm. He recognizes this flower bed. It is pretty familiar. Esther approaches him, noting that he purified the tutor through brute force, without any spells to help him. No magician could achieve something like that. Encrid looks at her, and asks if that really is that big of a deal. Esther is a bit annoyed. He doesn't even understand what he has done. She was able to preserve her powers thanks to him. With that, Encrid wakes up with Esther right over him, a silent understanding passing between them as dawn arrives. Encrid gets up and begins walking away, Christ asking where he is going. Naturally, he is going to do his morning training, making the others just kinda stare at him, as he's the same as ever. After a bit, they get going, and Encrid tells Christ to stop moping about and get moving too. Christ, however, calls him heartless. He got his swordsmanship, but his dream of striking it rich has suddenly been crushed. Encrid wonders when that box got smashed up like that, Christ noting it's from the shock of the magic trap breaking. However, upon closer inspection, he sees something glistening. He breaks off the chest entirely, and, below it, finds a pile of ancient gold coins. He takes most of them, guessing that Dolph really wasn't a terrible person after all. He shared it with the others too, Luagarn, thinking that she doesn't need any money, and before Christ can tell her to give it here, Encrid tells her to take it, as it's only right to divide the loot fairly. Christ notes that he says that, but he also took an extra item. Since it's the tutor, it would fetch a high price if he sold it. He's not going to sell it though, is he? Encrid confirms as such, but Christ wonders why he won't sell it, because he's a lunatic obsessed with swords, and Christ is a lunatic obsessed with money. The sword he was using got damaged while fighting the Null Horde too, so this looks pretty usable if he polishes it up. After coming to a crossroads, Luagarn notes that she'll be taking her leave now, and they all wave her away. But before she fully leaves, she stomps her foot on the ground, catching Encrid's attention. She asks if his goal is to become a knight. Does it really have to be for this country? With that, she leaves, and Encrid goes back to his own group. But this has given him food for thought. When he first harbored the dream as a child, he didn't understand the concept of a country. Growing up, he realized that a knight bound to a country by an oath of loyalty is very different from what he dreamed of. Is there perhaps another path? Back at the camp, naturally, Ragna and Rem are having a fight, but it doesn't stop just there, as Ragna trains with Auden too, and Jackson with Rem as well. They are fighting from dawn until dusk. The others think that they are total monsters. They are too scared to even go into the training grounds at this point. Thus they lose their spirit. What's the point of even trying? They won't stand a chance against guys like that. Paul, however, thinks that they have no determination. This was such an incredible fight. He can find even more things to learn from it. Paul had just started to find training fun, and was reborn as a highly motivated soldier. Suddenly though, Auden grabs Rem by his foot and throws him into the tree next to the one Paul was using as cover, making him lose his motivation real quick. At the same time, the company commander goes to Marcus with a suggestion to build a training ground exclusively for the lunatics. He has heard the rumors going around the unit. They say the soldiers are losing their motivation after watching those guys spar. Separating them entirely is a viable option, so they will proceed with it. By the way, the rumors also said that she's been joining in on the fights. Is that true? Sure enough, the company commander has been fighting with them too. Confusing Rem. Aren't company commanders supposed to be busy? Is it really okay for her to be here playing with them? The company commander explained that, based on what she's seen thus far, if her fiancé has been quiet for a while, he'll always show her something surprising afterwards, and just being on the receiving end isn't the duty of a lover after all. It's about time he returned, and Rem simply can't wait. If he comes back with nothing to show for it, he will beat him half to death. That night, Encrid returns, and he immediately reports to Marcus, explaining that they've all come back, and that Luagarn has returned to her post. Marcus confirms as such. He received advance notice that the request was completed safely. However, he has received conflicting reports. The Pioneer Village claims they are heroes who defeated a cultist and slaughtered 1,000 gnolls, and the other is from the commander of Viscount Ventra's forces. He told him to warn him not to make exaggerated claims of merit over a mere 50 gnolls. So which one is the truth? He wants to hear it from his mouth. Encrid stays silent for a bit, and tells him to believe whatever he wants to believe. What power do the words of a mere platoon commander hold after all? If it's someone of the battalion commander's level, he probably already knows the answer, right? Marcus smiles and explains that as of this moment, the independent platoon has been promoted to a company, so he will continue to fulfill his duty as company commander. Encrid is a bit confused though, as his company doesn't have 10 members. This doesn't seem to make any sense. Marcus explains that he is the one in charge of this city, so it makes perfect sense. He wants him to love this city just as he does. Eventually he goes back to the others, and Kreis asks if he heard they said a training ground has been built exclusively for their platoon. Encrid notes that they're a company now, and Rem asks how the mission was. Heard he was flying around out there. As Kreis wonders what he means by company, the others swarm him with a bunch of questions, which makes Encrid smile. Rem asks what's so funny, but he says nothing. He thinks that even if he returned to his hometown, where he was born, he wouldn't be able to feel this way. He looks at all of them and wonders if they should spar. Christ notes that they haven't even unpacked yet, but Ragna agrees, and Auden notes that he must be confident. Rem, however, says that this is exactly what he wanted to hear. He wants to see just how fun he has become. Naturally, Encrid and Rem are the first to fight, as at some point Rem became the standard for his strength. Is he weaker than Rem? Are they equal? Or is he stronger? Where does he stand now? The others watch as the fight begins. Encrid begins with a wide slash, which Rem simply blocks. However, he seems to be pushing pretty hard. It seems he's coming strong from the start, huh? Encrid knows that if he doesn't take him seriously, he will be getting pushed back. Rem appreciates this confidence, so he wants to see what he's got. He throws away Encrid's blade and strikes with an overhead, which Encrid deflects. They begin unleashing a flurry of blows at each other, the steel creating a show of sparks, before Encrid raises his sword up and crashes it into Rem, who catches it with his axes and lets it fall right beside him. Auden sees that this is some excellent physical strength, even if it's thanks to using the barbarian's technique. His stamina to support it has vastly improved. Jackson also sees coordination. He definitely hadn't mastered his dodging sense before, so when did he get to be so proficient at it? Ragna also sees that he is using the righteous sword technique, and he didn't just learn it half-baked either. He is blending it with the heavy sword technique, using the swordplay in a natural sequence. Encrid raises his blade up and crashes it hard into Rem, causing him to stumble backward. His rhythm isn't breaking. Before, he gave him enough amusement to just play around with him, but now he is surging with excitement and bloodlust. It's to the point where he has to risk half of his life. They continue clashing, but Rem is a little scared now. If he can't stop himself, this won't end in just a spar, but he wants more, and Encrid does too. They begin cutting each other again and again until they can both risk their lives. However, Encrid seems to overheat, and he cannot hope to dodge or block the incoming strike. Rem is confused. He thought it could go harder than this. He can't pull his axe back now, before the attack can do anything. Ragna smashes through the axe, making it splinter all around, and the others pull him back, barely saving Encrid. Jackson asks if he's trying to kill him as soon as he sees him, and Rem is annoyed. Why the hell? Are they stepping in? He would have certainly stopped cleanly by now. Auden also kind of understands why he couldn't stop himself, and Ragna is surprised too. He had begun growing steadily, but before they knew it, he had caught right up to them. Far too much. Why doesn't he just rest? Encrid thinks that it's too early for him to collapse like this. So who is next? All three of them say they are at once, and Encrid just tells them to decide, as it doesn't have all night. Rem, however, is confused. When did he get this far? On the day he first met him, he couldn't even imagine something like this. On that day, he was picking fights with people. He was already a prominent member of the reject squad, and he was doing this out of sheer boredom, not out of some sort of sadism. However, Encrid came to stop him, making Rem ask who he was. Every bastard who came as their squad leader up until then was a complete, half-witted idiot. One of them was an old guy who demanded respect, but Ragna just smashed him with the hilt of his sword, and he quit instantly. Another who seemed very adamant to charge in got killed instantly in his first fight. The last one before Encrid was really confident in his fighting skills up until Auden broke him completely, which caused them to be all extremely bored. Rem wondered, did every single one of those idiots get their brains roasted or something? Who do they think they are, barking orders at them? Christ told him that they just want to make a name for themselves. They might be rejects, but since they're capable, wouldn't it be an accomplishment if one could manage them? Rem thinks that they are just bastards with wild dreams. He figured the new guy, Encrid, wouldn't be any different. He'd just be another idiot barking orders without knowing his place. At one point though, as Rem was fighting an unwilling opponent, another squad leader came and asked what he was doing. Can he see his squad member is causing trouble? If he is the leader, he should get himself under control. Encrid just stopped swinging his sword for a bit, and told Rem to do as he said before starting to swing again. Naturally, that's when Rem began to get rather amused by him. Naturally, Encrid struggled in his first fights. He was saved by other soldiers most of the time, and they thought he was useless. From what he'd seen, Rem thought Encrid was just wasting his time on something hopeless, as after all, he was extremely talentless. At one point, after finishing training, he came around and asked why he was pushing himself so hard. What if he died doing that? Encrid guessed that's the end of it though, but Rem was confused. If that was the end of it, there's even less reason to do it, right? Encrid asks if there had to be any reason. He is just doing what he can. Rem was surprised. He may be talentless, but he was not something that he could hate. Then he asked him, if he said he'd teach him a way to get stronger, would he do it? That is why he had originally offered to teach the squad leader at the heart of the beast. For a long time, he didn't improve, no matter how much he taught him. Just as he was inwardly giving up on him, he began to change, and now he has been growing endlessly. The next morning, Rem stares at him and asks if he's awake. Encrid gets up and wonders why he's staring at him like that. Did he cause an incident? Kill someone? Perhaps cripple someone? Rem asks what he thought he'd say to something like that. But once Encrid stares at him, Rem tells Encrid to stop undressing him with his gaze, as he is rather perverted. Encrid doesn't really care about his jokes. If he didn't cause an incident, it's fine. Rem explains that the first weapon he learned to use when he was young was a spear. His father taught him. Encrid remembers he was good with a spear too, but Rem explains that he is good with just about any weapon. He figured out how to use most of them just by swinging them around a few times. Encrid asks if he is trying to brag, but that's not the point. When he was about 15 years old, the Western War broke out, and he made a name for himself there. Encrid knows about the Western War. It was a war where various Western tribes rose up, each claiming rulership. It also came to be called the War for the Throne. After a long fight, one tribe emerged victorious, but the casualties from the war were severe because the entire West had been devastated. It ultimately met its end when it was subjugated by the Empire. Rem made a name for himself in the war at just 15. At that age, he was barely struggling to survive in a mercenary corps. The gap in talent meant that not even time passed fairly for Encrid. Even so, that doesn't matter now. Rem gets to his point, as he wanted to ask something. Does he still intend to become a knight? Encrid confirms as such. He never intended to give up on it in the first place. After a bit of silence, Rem explains that he will become a knight too. He's probably wondering why he'd say that now. Will he laugh it off, or ask if he's out of his mind? However, Encrid says none of those things. He just agrees and notes that he should. Rem is surprised and smiles, following him outside for a spar. For this fun to continue, he cannot let him pass him by. These mainland bastards think there's only one way to become a knight, but the reality is different. There are beings like knights in the West too, named after an old legend called the warrior who pioneered the continent. They are called warriors. As such, he was the best among those candidates until he left the West, that is. Perhaps he should go back and find what he left behind. In a very clean-looking place, the bishop walks around, but suddenly he is stopped by a priest who has been running in the hallway. He apologizes for doing as such, but it's urgent. He explains that they failed to capture the frontier village, all because of one platoon commander. The bishop is a bit iffy. Are they certain it's not a member of the Knight Order? The priest confirms as such. In the first place, Noria is in no position to operate a Knight Order privately, which is exactly why they targeted her. The bishop thinks that they've dealt with external enemies, starting from Aspen, along with hordes of monsters swarming from the demonic realm. Internally, there was a conflict between the royalist faction and the noble faction too. The few knights they have are struggling just to prevent major incidents. The current Noria kingdom is a kingdom that is the very embodiment of chaos. They poured so many resources and capital into expanding that Null horde too. If they had captured the frontier village and turned it into a demonic realm, it could have become a holy land. By bringing Noria under the teachings of their cult, it was supposed to be an important foothold from which they would continue their holy mission. He wants to break something, but stops himself. It's too great an achievement to be the work of a mere platoon commander. It seems to be the result of a series of coincidences. They have too many future tasks to dwell on past events. However, they cannot simply ignore someone who has defied the will of their god, so they will send that out. By that, he means the Manticore, that nameless platoon commander. Since coincidences do not repeat themselves, by the rightful order of things, he will probably die by the beast's claws, and may he go to God's side when that happens, as this Manticore is no easy beast to quell. The next day, Marcus meets with everyone inside a castle, seemingly important people, with one of them asking why he called for them now. Today is not even the day for a regular meeting. Marcus announces that Martai has declared war on the border guard, surprising everyone. It hasn't even been that long since the Battle of Aspen ended. Marcus lets them talk, and thinks about the city of Martai. Because of Martai's ambiguous location, it's a place where territorial disputes constantly break out between Nawalila and the mercenary king of the East. Currently, it is Nawalila's land. Due to the long history, there are many strong fighters with Eastern blood mixed in. Currently, Martai is being ruled by someone referred to as the General. He is expanding his influence there, as he makes it into a city of mercenaries. The ferry commander explains that the border guard is a core territory that serves as a military city, with active trade going on. Martai intends to occupy the border guard to use it as a stepping stone to grow their size even further. One of the royals there asks what they should do with their soldiers, exhausted from the fighting with Aspen. It is impossible to face Martai's larger force if they are to come fully. Another soldier notes that they need to send out requests for support to the surrounding territories right away. However, another noble, smug one, notes that even if they do request support, nobody will come to help the border guard. The surrounding territories are just as eager to take the border guard. They will likely side with Martai to split the border guard between them, rather than relying on the surrounding territories that will stab them in the back. Would it not be wiser to choose a safer option? As it happens, there is a decent partner available, someone he knows very well. They should ally themselves with the Black Blade bandits. Everyone immediately denies this offer, with one of the soldiers noting that their people are already suffering from those bandits. How could they trust them? The noble tells him to think long-term, but Marcus puts his goblet down roughly and says, "That's enough. The soldiers of the border guard are not as weak as they think. They will not request outside help, and they will fight, and they will win against Martai with their own strength." The noble who suggested the alliance with the bandits is visibly getting angrier. After everyone leaves, Marcus has seen this and tells the ferry commander that he is getting overly worked up. Did she see his expression? He was worried he might actually try to stab him or something. The ferry commander knows that he wouldn't be so reckless as to challenge the warmonger, who gave him that nickname anyway. Marcus notes that he is the one who did it, with the ferry commander noting that he is pretty clever, but he'd take that as a compliment instead of what she actually meant. He knows that Vice Baron Vancento does not even intend to hide that he is colluding with the Black Blades. That man always sticking by him is likely a guard assigned by the Black Blades too. The ferry commander asks if he intends to deal with him, and Marcus denies it, even if he does not like the bastard. Killing a noble is still a crime. Going around stupidly showing his tail, though, is exactly what they need. They will just wait around for an opportunity. Once Vancento is outside the keep, he immediately kicks a basket of goods with the people who were selling them, wondering what the hell is wrong with him. Vancento continues trudging along, noting that Marcus, no matter how much he acts like a noble, should not stick in noble matters, and go do his damn job in the battlefield. His guard knows that it seemed like he already has some force to rely on, and Vancento guesses it's the lunatics, especially their leader, that Encrid. What an unlucky bastard. He heard he became a company commander because he slaughtered 1,000 gnolls at a frontier village. It is so obvious that he is flaunting exaggerated achievements. Suddenly, as he rounds the corner, he bumps into someone, who is actually Encrid, who apologizes as he did not see him, before walking away. Vancento looks at him, seeing him only as a lowly commoner. He does not know why Marcus is trying to protect him like that. The guard asks if that was Encrid, and Vancento confirms as such. If it was not him, Marcus would have had no choice but to accept the proposal to join the Black Blades. The guard suggests that killing Encrid would solve all their problems, isn't it? Starting with the border guard, they will conquer the Nawilila kingdom, and creating a Black Blade kingdom is their long-term goal anyway. They have no time to hesitate over a single soldier, right? Vancento likes this idea. He should send a message to the Black Blades post-haste to send the 9 elites of the Black Blades, as well as the mercenary they hired this time. Eventually, those 9 blade elites arrive at the border guard with everyone watching the walls intently. One of them knows that they are the proud elites of the noble blades. One of them should be enough to kill a mere soldier, so why would they request a mercenary too? One of them explains that the noble they are trading with said he wants to make sure that he is killed. That beastman mercenary, even if she is a foul-smelling fool, is a strong fighter who has made a name for herself in the mercenary world. Suddenly though, the beastman smells something, the scent of a beast, and draws her blades, looking into the woods, claiming that something is coming, something extremely strong. The elites also draw their weapons and wait patiently, and sure enough, the manticore arrives along with its master, who asks who they are. One of them explains that they are of the Black Blades bandits, but what brings him here? The man explains that it has nothing to do with them. He has come to punish the one who has defied the will of their god, a platoon commander from the border guard named Encrid. He has come here to slay him in the name of the Lord. One of the elites is confused but then smiles, nudging the beastman to lower her weapons. It does not seem completely unrelated after all, as they have been sent to kill Encrid as well. It seems their purposes are the same. So what does he think? If they work together, would it not be better to produce a more definitive result? That night, that same night, under the moonlight, Encrid continues his training, unaware of the hit that is currently being fabricated against him. As Encrid continues running, someone notes that he has been focused on his training recently. Who is Auden? It seems like he is almost done for the day, so how about it? Would he like to go on a night patrol together to take a breather? They do so, walking around the walls, and a few guards notice them, asking what brings them here. Encrid tells them not to mind them. They are just doing a random patrol. He tells Auden that it has been a while since they walked around like this. Auden agrees. Since he was promoted to company commander, they've been exempted from all duties. Encrid believes there was no need for that. The battalion commander was just looking out for him. Auden tells him that, Contrary to his words, every time he sees him, he's doing physical conditioning training or sparring. He seems to enjoy being exempted from duty more than anyone. Encrid tells him that he cannot afford to waste time, and Auden stops. He tells him that diligence is a good virtue among men, but it is also worrying. The scriptures say as such, a well-built day is more important than an overextended one. Encrid looks down a bit, thinking that he has gained talents he had never thought of possessing before, and has closely chased after them. With each step, he has felt like he has advanced much further than before. Maybe he got a bit impatient, thinking he could grasp a clue to the wall. He notes that he will keep it in mind, but is it not odd? He always tells him to surpass his limits when training. Auden tells him that it's not quite overexertion, but an appropriate level. Perhaps he could do even more. Under their noses, the new formation of assassins appears out of the forest, with one of the elites asking the Manticore handler about the breach. He explains that they will be drawing their attention from here first. In the meantime, they should meet up with a spy they planted by the gate to open it. He lets go of the Manticore, telling it to go, and run wild. Sure enough, the Manticore just climbs onto the wall and ends up right on it, screeching at the two guards who immediately fall on their ass, catching Auden's notice as well. The guards immediately request reinforcements, as a high-tier monster has appeared, but the Manticore is already on them, mauling their juicy flesh. Before it can do anything, however, in 3 strides Auden is already on it, and unleashes a devastating strike on its snout, breaking a few of its teeth and probably its jaw as well. He notes that this was a pretty noisy kitten. It is polite to speak quietly at night. The Black Blade elite see this as they run around the wall, thinking that this is insane. What the hell is that, some kind of bear? To block a Manticore, they need to get inside before they get caught, so he screams at the spy that they hid to open up. Upon hearing this, he immediately draws a blade and rushes towards the other man he was guarding with. Encrid hears the guard screaming and thinks that there's something going on. It seems that there is more than one enemy. He asks Auden if he can handle this side, who agrees and tells him to go ahead. He will be having a fun time with this kitty. Hearing this, Encrid begins running. The men the spy stabbed ask what the hell he is doing. The spy tells him not to feel too bad about this. His death will become the foundation for the Black Blades. Before he can strike again, however, Encrid approaches and flicks a whistling knife into his hand, making him wince in pain. He crouches down to the injured soldier and looks at his wound critically. Having died several times, he can grasp the severity of wounds at a glance, and this much is fine. He should walk to the medical barracks by himself. The guard tells him that he literally got stabbed in the stomach. How is he supposed to walk? Encrid knows that if he has time to yell, then he's fine. The spy thinks that he cannot open the gate with this guy here. He has to run to save himself. Before he can, however, Encrid flings another whistling knife right into the spy's leg, incapacitating him completely. He tells the guard that if he can't move, then he should make sure he doesn't go anywhere. He puts a hand on the gate, thinking that there are presences outside, around 10 of them. That guy was trying to open the gates to let them in. If they are the type of force to force an attack like this, they will find another way, even if the gate doesn't open. So he should act now. He gently opens the gate and puts his blade through it, making the elite who were close dodge preemptively. Encrid closes the gate behind him, thinking that it's better to step out alone and face one's enemies. The elites note that they did not expect their target to come on his own 2 feet. Encrid asks if they know him. He thinks that every single one of these guys is highly skilled, especially that Beastman woman behind them. She looks pretty strong. The Beastman senses something from him too. She can smell it. A Beastman's keen sense of smell instinctively gauges an opponent's level. His scent speaks volumes. The elite charge at Encrid, wanting to take his life, but he immediately unleashes a devastating quick strike onto the first one and moves on to the next, with the Beastman finally realizing that this man is extremely dangerous. The guards, hearing that there is a Manticore, go to the walls immediately. One of them tells all units to go to their battle positions, as they are up against a high-tier monster, so they should be prepared to die. However, when they get there, they see Auden just slapping the shit out of the Manticore and putting it on the ground roughly. The Manticore itself seems resigned to its fate, making the guards just kinda look at the scene with perplexed eyes. As Auden approaches the Manticore again, he explains that the scriptures say having different beliefs is not the same as walking the wrong path. The Manticore, bitten as it is, gets up again and charges at him, extending its tail to try to puncture him. However, Auden just blocks it and tells the Manticore to turn to God and wash away its sins. Punching it again, it should seek forgiveness for its filthy, stained soul, and seek it once again. He unleashes a devastating strike on it, sending it absolutely flying with a huge tuft of air, and the Manticore lands right into one of the pointy watchtowers, killing it in an instant. The guards immediately move in to recover the body, but Auden has other plans. High-tier monsters are highly intelligent, and to willingly attack a human-built fortress and be foolish enough not to flee when cornered is not something a manticore would do. He sees someone hiding nearby, who immediately runs away upon being found. This is what Auden has been searching for, that cultist servant. The manticore handler immediately begins running away as fast as he can, as he does not want to fight someone who took down a manticore bare-handed. Auden lands down like a rocket and begins running towards him with that same placating face he always has, making him 1,000 times more frightening. As he runs towards the man, he explains that, in the past, as an inquisitor, there was a time when he hunted monsters, demonic beasts, and cultists. Though he may no longer have that qualification, he has not lost his spirit. He gets in front of the cultist and tells him that he hopes God will watch over him. He unleashes a devastating punch on him, sending him absolutely flying into the wall, to the point that it shatters completely, killing the cultist likely in that instant. Rem and the others watch from above, with Rem noting that they should have called if something so fun was happening. Playing by himself is really not fair. Auden asks what brings them here. Christ notes that, since the captain was gone, Esther was whining in her sleep, making her immediately slap him. But Rem ignores all of that, and asks where Encrid went. Jackson points towards the gates. It seems like things are heating up over there as well. Sure enough, Encrid has taken care of most of the soldiers, with the elite Blades member, wondering what the hell their handlers meant when they said just one soldier. This guy is practically on the level of a knight. The Beastman has realized too far earlier than the others that they cannot beat him. It seems like this will be her grave. Well, she always lived half expecting to die at any point anyway. Besides, as a final opponent, he is highly skilled, and not bad to look at either. This is a good place to die. The elite Blades member asks what the hell she's talking about, but she just decks him in the face, knocking him out. She calls out for Encrid, having transformed a lot more, and notes that they should go at it for real. Encrid is surprised, as the difference between beastmen and beast-type monsters like lycanthropes is not far. If human traits are added to a beast's form, it is closer to a monster. Conversely, if beast traits are added to a human's form, it is a beast man. Beast men have a wild nature dwelling within them. Their fangs grow a bit longer, their fur wider, and their appearance changes slightly. For a beast man to transform as drastically as this is his first time. The Beastman woman guesses that maybe even she has not seen another Beastman transformed this far. She charges in, as even if she accepts her death, she cannot just hand over her life. Encrid blocks both of her strikes expertly, cutting her hand and letting her go of one of her blades. But the Beastman does not give up and charges in with her claws. She will fight and die as a warrior. She scratches at Encrid, who immediately dodges, but she has expected that, so she cocks her head back and crashes it right into Encrid's. Before she could get to his face, however, his knee was already in her belly, putting her back. He recognized that headbutt as the one from the Valen style of mercenary swordsmanship. She ducks under his next strike, grabs her blade back, and charges in again. Encrid sees that she is mixing techniques with beastman-like movements. She is fighting far too recklessly, as if she is prepared to die, however. He slices her hand, and she rushes in again with her head, her jaws gaped open. He wonders what this is, this strange obsession he can see from her. He elbow strikes her in the chin and moves in again. He can see that desperate look in her eyes that refuses to give up, even after knowing she will die. They continue clashing, with the Beast Woman calling on Krimhalt, the sole god of the Beastmen, who resides over reincarnation and reproduction. All Beastmen wish to reach thine sanctuary after death. She dodges another strike, thinking that if she wishes so, she must die a warrior too, before rushing in again after striking with a clothed hand. A Beastman who dies as a warrior will live on in an eternal vortex as Krimhalt's sword. Encrid continues clashing his blades with hers, but eventually he gains the upper hand by smashing the butt of his sword into her head. The Beast Woman has expected this, and she wonders to Krimhalt if she will be able to reach his side. She was abandoned by the Beastman and wandered without the protection of her own kind. She became a mercenary to prove herself with her blade, but even that did not go well. It is unfair. It is not her fault that she was born looking like this. She rushes in desperately one last time, thinking that she has not even been able to bear children yet. So why her? Why only her? To suffer this wretched life? Encrid rushes in on her undefended self, his blade stopping mere inches from her throat, and she falls to the ground, not being able to hold back her emotions anymore. She wonders why it was only her. Why did she have to live an insufferable life like this one? Encrid sees the tears streaming down her face, and after a moment of silence, asks if she wishes to live. Rem and the others approach Encrid, asking if he'll spare her, and Encrid wonders how long they've been here, with Rem noting that, since he started fighting that wildcat. But is this thing a monster or a beastman? Auden notes that it does not have any demonic energy, so it must be a beastman. Rem pushes her further, tapping her head, telling her to stop whining. Did she grow up eating curses or something? She looks like a freak. The beast woman feels hurt and rushes in with a punch, asking who the hell he thinks he is. But Rem just rocks her shit immediately and asks who she's hissing at. Does she want to die? Encrid tells him to stop hitting her, and notes that every one of these guys was at the level of an elite border guard, a special grade fighter, or even higher. To find out who is backing people like this, they need to keep one alive to talk, so she will spill everything now. The beast woman understands her life has just been extended by a little bit, not entirely spared. She transforms and puts her hands together to be tied by the guards. Encrid watches her for a long moment before trudging back to Ragna, who tells him that Esther has been really noisy, throwing a tantrum because he wasn't there. Encrid tells her to go inside, as he will be there shortly. He must report to the battalion commander first. He explains that he subdued one of the attackers in the middle of the fight and brought one for interrogation, so they should take a look. Marcus thinks that it's pretty obvious without even looking. This is the work of Vincento. He knew he would pull something like this eventually, but he showed his tail sooner than he expected. He tells him he has done pretty well once again. Thanks to him, they now have proper justification. They can finally get rid of an annoyance. Encrid thinks that the battalion commander sure knows something. Things will be settled quickly then, including how they will deal with that beast man. After Encrid comes back, Rem asks if he completed his report, and if so, they should go to sleep. Encrid notes that he still has to review the battle, but Ragna notes that they couldn't sleep because of him, so he should put out the light. Encrid lies on his bed, thinking that he has no choice. He will review it while lying down. Before he can even think about it, he seemingly falls asleep, with Auden noting that he really needs to learn how to rest when it's time for it. He is a training addict. However, this guy is actually inside his mind. Encrid thinks that she used those agile movements and flexible responses as if she were prepared to die, but in the end, that beast woman wept out of her desire to live. If he had reacted differently, what would she have done? He wants to fight her a lot more. He wants to put his strength to the test further. Before he can strike at the clones, Esther appears, asking if he's training even in his dreams. No wonder he cannot get rid of his fatigue. He really is a high-maintenance man, isn't he? Encrid asks if this is her original form, and she looks at him a bit, surrounded by the figments of Encrid's battles as he runs toward them. With one snap of her fingers, Esther eliminates them and tells him not to act as he knows her in the other world. Encrid agrees, but thinks that she's the one who entered his dream without asking. The next morning, Encrid wakes with Kreis being the first one to see him, so he asks where they went. Kreis explains that he headed to the Gilting Guild because they picked up the manticore carcass, since high-tier monster parts, from hide to the innards, are all pure money. The ones who attacked yesterday, he heard, are from the Black Blade bandits. They likely targeted the border guard while taking advantage of the situation with Martai. Encrid asks about Martai, if he has more details, and Kreis explains that rumors are spreading about them already organizing their army and finishing preparations to march out. It's a territorial war that is basically right around the corner. There is no way the battalion commander will just overlook the Black Blades for pulling such a stunt. Won't that beast woman be executed too? The beast woman herself is being held in the gallows, her head down, seemingly having already considered herself dead. Vincento is there, annoyed by the stench, and asks Marcus, who is leading him, why he wants him to be here. Marcus explains that the beastman before him is one of last night's attackers. During interrogation, she confesses to being hired by a mercenary hired by the Black Blades. She has claimed that an internal spy for the Black Blades inside the city has hired her specifically to kill a soldier named Encrid. Since she is just a hired mercenary and does not know the spy's identity, he tried to interrogate the Black Blades' spy caught in front of the gates as well. However, it seems that he committed suicide before they could properly interrogate him. Vincento recognizes this guy. He is the one he ordered to open the gates yesterday. Marcus asks what he thinks. He was definitely the one who suggested allying with the Black Blades before. Vincento thinks that it cannot end like this. He has to smooth things over here. He crashes his fists into the bars of the Beastman's cell. He notes that she's the one from the Black Blades. How can there be a filthy mercenary like her spouting lies? This is all a setup. He is innocent of any involvement with those bastards. They must torture her further to make her confess who is truly behind this. Marcus agrees. Of course, he claims to know nothing about it, and is innocent. If this attack was truly the work of the Black Blades, their skills would have been incredibly sloppy, right? There's no way a noble of the border guard would choose to ally with such a pathetic organization. However, he is disappointed by this incident. The border guard's military strength is definitely lacking. Following his suggestion, he is thinking of sending a request for cooperation to the Black Blades. He plans to form a diplomatic envoy with an escort. Would he be willing to go as a representative? The stupid noble, not knowing that he is being used, bows, telling Marcus to leave everything to him. The Beastman wonders why they even send an envoy to the Black Blades. Is it because they do not believe her? She told them everything she knew, just as Encrid told her to. But what exactly is going on? She doesn't know, so she shouldn't worry about it. As they walk, Marcus tells his assistant that today will be the last time they will see that face of that bastard. They will have the border guard mobilize immediately. They must arrive before Vancento's envoy. The price for daring to target the border guard should be made clear. As he walks alone, he thinks that between the Black Blades and the Martai, he wonders why the border guard has so many enemies. Many Martai spies are hiding in the city ahead of the territorial war. The reason Martai finished their preparations so quickly is likely because they looked down on them for being attacked by the likes of the Black Blades. However, this is an opportunity. If they underestimate them like this, they can definitely use it as a strategic advantage. Still, since they are already being underestimated, maybe he should keep their trump card properly hidden, at least for a while yet. As the lunatic squad gears up, Encrid explains that they are escorting the delegation heading to the Black Blade bandits. It was a direct order from the battalion commander after all. Rem wonders if the Black Blades weren't the ones who attacked the city, so why even send a delegation? Christ notes that it probably doesn't mean they are actually escorting. Encrid knows as such. It means they are supposed to kill him, since the escort target, Vice Baron Vancento, is likely a collaborator with the Black Blades. Ragna wonders if this is why they are bringing the barbarian along, with Christ noting that killing nobles is probably his specialty. But Rem tells him that killing allies is also his specialty, and begins running towards him as Christ runs away. Ragna notes that if they knew he is a collaborator, they should have just killed him. Why did they have to go through the trouble of sending him out there? Christ himself, as he is being taken out of breath by Rem, thinks that's probably not the battalion commander's only motive, since spies from Martai are also currently infiltrating the city. It's more advantageous to hide at least one more card. It's a strategy to conceal one more card. Rem finally lets go of Christ, whose soul was already going to the heavens, but Rem also asks Encrid why that thing is there. Encrid himself made a special request to bring her along, with Rem wondering why. Is he taking his dog for a walk or something? Christ wonders what he means by that. She was going to be executed anyway, so he is probably bringing her along to bury her with the noble, right? With that, they begin their walk. Encrid is walking right next to Vancento's carriage, who is surprised that he only got 3 escorts for this important delegation. They even included a trashy braggart and 2 barbarians. They should treat him with utmost respect, those peasants from the city. Ragna is about to take his head off, and Rem is too, although Encrid stops both of them. The beast woman wonders why they haven't killed him yet. Haven't they gotten far from the city already? Why are they even dragging it out? Vancento looks at her, and notes that she looks a little bit different in the light. He can grant her the honor of coming to his carriage tonight. The beast woman wonders if this is why, and thinks that if it were Encrid after her body, then perhaps she wouldn't have minded so much. She is taken out of her stupor by seeing that Encrid is starting to train as he walks, as he couldn't do it earlier because they left at dawn. Ragna notes that he is doing his swordmanship training too, right? He shouldn't skip it. The beast woman just kind of looks at Encrid, guessing that her body can't be his goal. Definitely not. Then why did Encrid make them spare her like this? Vancento asks his guard if they are almost there, and he agrees that they have passed the marker. Vancento is pleased. There is no need to be rash heading into the dawn of the Black Blade Kingdom, it seems. The beast woman sees that on a nearby tree, there is a Black Blade ambush marker, and they camp somewhere along there that night. Vancento wonders how they dare to serve him such a subpar meal. This is not even fit to be fed to that beast woman. Rem just looks at him for a bit before trying to take out his axe, with Encrid stopping him and telling Ragna to clean up his food before he goes to sleep. Who does not do that? The beast woman thinks that they're calm. Too calm. These guys, if they keep things up like this, will be sitting ducks for the Black Blade ambush. Suddenly, Encrid plates food into her face and asks if she wants any. She shakes her head, and he just puts it down next to her as he sits down himself, telling her to eat if she wants. The beast woman wonders what she should do. It would be better to warn them in advance, right? Encrid asks if she's not going to run away. Well, she's not very bright, is she? Why does he think he brought her along? The beast woman thinks that can't be it. He was trying to give her a chance to escape? Why? Encrid tells her that she just wanted to live. He thinks that she had a pure thirst for life, a longing for the choices she could not have made before. It was hard to ignore how vivid and honest it was. The beast woman is shocked he has not asked anything of her yet. He just let her go like this. It is impossible. No one has ever shown her such kindness before. Encrid turns to leave, but before he can, the beast woman tells him that the black blades are about to ambush them. She saw their ambush marker here along the road. The noble bastard is planning to kill them. Well, however, Rem is already getting started. He took off Vancento's head, causing his guard to scream, and the beast woman to look at it with a shocked expression. Rem got really annoyed. It seems that this bastard threw his table manners to the dogs. It seems Encrid just lets out a heaving sigh, as this is earlier than they planned. Did they hold back long enough? The guard, hearing this, realizes that they never intended to act as a delegation. They planned to kill him from the very beginning. He runs away, grabbing a horse, and thinks that he is at a disadvantage on his own. He will link up with his ambushing comrades. Encrid guesses he must be trying to join his ambushing comrades, with Ragna wondering how he knows that. Encrid explains that the beast man, the beast woman, tipped him off, and Ragna notes that she earned her keep then. Encrid then says that they should go catch him, but the beast woman is confused. She told them so they could avoid the ambush. Why would they go after them? Encrid tells her that she's been asking the obvious for a while now, because he wants to fight. He also cuts off her restraints and notes that she is free now. She should run away or whatever. It's really up to her. The beast woman is kind of left there, and wonders if it really was as obvious as he just said. As the group keeps running, Rem notes that he was wondering why he brought her along, so that's what it was after all. He's into beastmen, isn't he? Ragna wonders if this is why he didn't accept the fairy, and Rem notes it makes a lot of sense, but Encrid just tells them to stop spouting nonsense and focus. They eventually catch up to the guard, who is standing over his horse, which he has personally killed, so they followed him after all. But what will they do now that they cannot escape? Encrid notes that it looks like it, and Ragna says it's too bad for him, but the guard meant them, not him. Just then, a bunch of other men come from around the forest, one of them noting that their little act ends here. The guard wonders, why don't they beg for their lives while they still can? He might let them off with a few scratches. Literally none of them are surprised by this ambush, and the guard gets annoyed, sending his people to kill them at once, beginning the fight. The beast woman runs away, thinking that now she's free. She can just run away like this for good. She can run away and survive, but suddenly she stops, wondering what she is even doing this for. She thinks of Encrid, thinking that he has a spirit closer to Krimhalt than anyone else she's seen before. How is that possible? She remembers something an old woman told her in the past. Though she walks a different path, she too was a child of Krimhalt. If she follows Krimhalt's will to bloom and wither on the battlefield, in the future, when she wishes for death, the life's guide will come to her side. This is what made her stop. Encrid saved her when she wished to die, so she turns around and begins running towards Encrid. She thought the old woman just said that out of pity for her, but if that old fortune teller from her hometown told the truth, then she wishes to be by Encrid's side. She wants to learn his way of life. She wants to die by his side if need be, and she wishes to bear his children and become a part of his pack. Yo, chill. To do that, she has to save Encrid from the Black Blades. However, when she gets to the battlefield, she sees Rem absolutely crushing the head of one of the blades, with the others running away in fear, but being cut up by Ragna with no consideration. She sees Encrid following their moves, and he notes this is a good reference to have. The beast woman wonders what this is a good reference to. Torture methods, perhaps? Encrid was insanely strong, but these guys are too. Suddenly, as she takes a step back, she snaps a twig under her foot, and everyone turns to her, with Rem recognizing her by her claws and asking if she was going to attack as well. The beast woman suddenly feels a surge of fear, and she immediately denies it, but Rem thinks otherwise, and absolutely dismisses her, noting that this is quite anticlimactic, with Encrid also being disappointed. Before the beast woman can say anything more, a bunch more black blades appear, and the group just kind of stares at each other, wondering who they are. However, the beast woman recognizes them. They are from the Black Blades headquarters. Over at the Black Blades headquarters, it seems that it's over. The leader stands with a blade in his back, noting that this is the end of the Black Blades. The other branches of the Black Blades across the continent will come for them, but the captain of the border guard just ends his life with another strike, noting that they've wiped out almost all of the Black Blade bastards. Taking advantage of the chaos, a few remnants manage to escape. Should they pursue? The captain says they should forget it. It's likely too late now. The orders were to completely root them out, though, so he might get a proper scolding from the battalion commander because of something like this. Encrid looks at the men, and now understands that, although he doesn't know why they look so messy, they must have come here to meet their comrades, so they will meet them in hell. With that, they begin killing them, and the beast woman thinks that these guys are all madmen. Truly, truly madmen. Even so, if she can stay by Encrid's side, then she will also become a madman. As she rips into one of the black blades, Ragna wonders what she's doing and asks if she is taking out her allies or something. While Encrid recognizes what she is doing, the beast woman continues taking down black blade after black blade. Another appears behind her, aiming to take her head off, calling her a treacherous bastard, but she uses the one she just killed as a stepping stone to leap over the man's strike and kick him in the face roughly. Rem is annoyed that she's stealing all of his prey. She can't just bust all of their heads open like that and act as if nothing happened. As she catches her breath, Encrid approaches her and asks one thing. What is it that she wishes to do? She explains that even if she runs, she has nowhere left to return to, so she wishes him to take her as his subordinate. Encrid considers it for a moment, and then says that he will, thinking that, ever since taking this beast woman out of prison, the right to decide her fate has been his. Conveniently, they are short on men for the company now that he thinks about it. Her eyes are golden, and the beastmen have some sort of legend about golden eyes. She is happy that he really accepted her, while Encrid thinks that the golden eyes thing is not that important. Rem wonders if this is their newest recruit, and Ragna hates when beastmen shed everywhere, but she tells them not to treat her like some animal. Her name is Dunbachel. They should call her by her proper name. Encrid agrees, so they should head back. She finally has someone say, "Let's head back together." It seems that now she has a pack, but her pack immediately makes her carry the carriage with them inside. Rem tells her to move faster, as a slug would be faster than her. Did she want to sleep on the road or something? She asks why she has to pull the carriage, and Rem tells her that it got heavy after gathering the loot. She notes that this doesn't explain why, but Rem tells her that they don't have anyone else to replace the horses. Dunbachel is a little more than annoyed that Rem is treating her like a beast again, and Encrid thinks that, after Andrew left, Rem was secretly disappointed. Encrid was worried about Dunbachel since they originally met as enemies, but seeing Rem already acting so friendly, Dunbachel should fit right in with the rest of the company. Now Dunbachel wonders if she made the right choice in staying. Marcus receives news that same night that Marta's forces have begun their advance. They will be here in 5 days. Within that time, they will reach the front lines of the border guard and begin the siege. They should bring the civilians from outside the walls inside. The lunatic crew arrives in the morning, with Ragna wondering why there are so many people. As they get out, Encrid sees Chris and Pin, who were apparently waiting for them, but Chris is immediately hit by a stench, the stench of Dunbachel. Encrid agrees that she was not really clean to begin with, but she did sweat a lot carrying the carriage. He tells Pin to take her in and get her washed up and changed. The rest of them should sort the loot and head inside, as he will report to the battalion commander first. That's when the ferry commander arrives, and notes that he can make his report during their meeting. Officers are required to attend the strategy meeting, and she has also been awaiting his return, since he is her fiancé. Encrid Wander is the company commander of a unit with fewer than 10 members, considered an officer, but the ferry commander tells him that headcount does not dictate importance. He's been so busy playing with his company that he completely neglected his lover. She awaited him night after night. When exactly does he plan on visiting her? Encrid agrees and asks if they should have a sparring match sometime soon. She laughs a bit, as her fiancé truly knows nothing but training, though she looks forward to it. Encrid wonders what she meant in the first place. Bro is as thick as the wall he has to climb. They all go to the meeting, and Marcus explains that following Vangento's proposal, they sent a delegation to the Black Blades. Since they agreed to join hands, they needed to thoroughly investigate them, so the border guard was tasked with the investigation. The border guard captain gets up and explains that behind their backs, they were secretly preparing to attack their city. Consequently, they withdrew their intent to ally and purged the Black Blades headquarters instead. However, a few remnants slipped away. Encrid notes that they took care of them, and Marcus understands. So his failure to protect Vangento was due to an ambush by those remnants, right? Encrid agrees. It seems they were targeting Vangento while fleeing from the beginning. Marcus thinks they were truly insolent. Vangento truly was someone who was quite cherished here. For Vangento, who unfortunately passed away, they should take a brief moment of silence. Encrid notes there is likely no one here who does not know this exaggerated mourning is just an act. Border Guard is a city with many enemies. Enemies approaching from the outside, like Marta, and those who plot from within, like Vangento. Vangento's death is a warning. Those who act out of unnecessary greed shall die because of it. At this moment, the battalion commander is clearly stating his will to protect the border guard. Encrid also remembers when Marcus told him to love this city. It seems that being a knight is an incredibly high wall. Marcus continues explaining that Marta is a city inheriting the blood of the mercenary king of the East. Their military might be strong, but if they have the backing of an external force as well, their odds cannot be predicted. On today's battlefields, victory or defeat is determined by small elites spearheaded by a knight. Encrid knows that the chances of reaching the end are less than 1 in 10,000. He hopes, even if he can't reach it with his meager talent, even if it is a faded dream rolled through the mud and torn asunder, that he can do something. Marcus continues noting that, right now, within their border guard, there is a company that showcases the most unique strength as a small elite. Marcus asks Lunatic Company Commander Encrid what he will do. Encrid knows what he will do. He says that he will become the knight who puts an end to this war, and that he will do whatever he can. With that, Marcus gives him independent operational authority. He wants to see him go wild to his heart's content. That evening, they all gathered, even Dunbachel, at the gates. Encrid, seeing them, notes that they can head out now toward victory, but that is a story for another day.
Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.